Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host and elk hunting coach, Joe Gilligan. You want to hunt elk? They live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Welcome everybody, I'm Joe Gillia, and this is your Insights edition of Blue Collar Elk Hunting, where we want to talk and learn about all things elk. And man, today, on today's show, if you're a regular listener, then you know that we here at ElkBros are sponsors and official coaching staff of one of the most exciting hunting television shows and incredible competitions you will ever see. Leopold's Hunt Warz, y'all. This is the only show where normal, like me, like you, everyday hunters get to be the stars of the show. And on the show with me today to talk elk and hunt wars is Troy Goekeritz, one of the masterminds behind the show, and along with Troy to talk about their experience, the underdogs that just pulled off a dream come true on episode 5 of season 2. Jonathan and Brent from Team Idaho, man. Guys,
hey.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, we got the celebrities on, Joe. We've got Brent. We've got John. These guys are killing big bulls in freaking New Mexico on the show. These guys are the superstars.
Absolutely, man. That's why I thought, it was so cool. I got a hold of you, Troy, to get here on the show, and I sent out a text I sent it to Jonathan actually, and I said, I know this is late notice, but would you be interested, man? He pops it right back. He says, we're there, man. How you guys doing, man?
Hey, doing great. Doing great. Happy to be here.
So what was it like? I mean, if these people haven't seen it, look, y'all, if you have not seen episode 5 of season 2 of Hunt Wars, you had better go watch it. In fact, don't start there, man. You need to get up there and you need to watch that first one, the King of the Camp. I believe that's episode 3, correct? It's episode 3 on there. Go watch this because you're going to get a chance to see these fellas when they get into camp. And this is, like you said, Troy, they are the stars, man, of this show. These guys show up. They're just guys that put in for this competition, happen to draw the competition, which we're going to talk a lot about that here in a few minutes. But they come into this camp as, I don't know, you guys seem to talk yourselves down a little bit. What was up with that?
Hey, we were very new to the archery elk hunting world, and even down to calling. All I've really used is a hoochie mama, and and I think anybody can squeeze a call, but it's a little different when when you're playing with the big guys, learning how to, use mouth reads and, Phelps calls and, really starting to understand the language. And we learned so much before we step foot in camp, thanks to the ElkBros and Hunt Wars collaboration.
Well, this is the most serious I've ever seen you, Jonathan.
I know it, man.
He's changed ever since episode 5 dropped. He's changed.
Yeah.
I've sent him some stuff to autograph. I haven't seen anything back. One thing that I noticed and I loved, exactly what you said, Joe, it's easy for me to buy the tags. It's easy for us to put the hunt on. I mean, when I say easy, that's the fun part. But then you turn around and you see these guys have to go and grind it out and give their all. And they have a lot on the line. The 4 teams that were out in that camp were so good. And, it kind of makes me proud that we picked the right guys to be on the show. And these guys represented so well. But when you look at it, being successful on an elk hunt is one thing, especially in an area that but showing up, no prior knowledge, no anything, to be able to kill something in, I think it was day 5 for you guys or something, that's impressive. And not, Joe, it wasn't like one and done. It was a swing and a miss and then another one. Anyway, I don't want to say, but
Yeah.
anybody can call in one bowl, but can you call in two bowls? John, Brent, you guys did it. And then you did an amazing job.
Well, Brent, there was actually more than 2 bulls that morning, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was like the 5th bowl, 6th bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hot that morning. You talk about it in your last pod. You find those spots where the rut is just going on, and those cows are in heat, dripping is what you call it. And we had spikes, we had rags. I saw none of them, not one. I didn't see an elk until John missed an elk and then he killed an elk. Those are the 2 elk I saw. Joe, it was just amazing. It was incredible action that morning.
Yeah, that's the thing that I want people to realize is that, Brent, you and I now, like I said, I talk about Jonathan being serious here, because I tell you, when you guys showed up, you were like the most relaxed dudes I ever saw, because you guys were like, oh, there's no, you had all these guys that came in with all this experience. And where was your experience level when you you think, oh, you get this call that you guys have been selected to be on Hunt Warz? Where was your experience level at that point?
I was thinking about that, and the best example I could give you, man, is the year before when we went elk hunting. We drew elk tags for rifle hunting outside of Yellowstone in Idaho, and we hunted for, what was it, John? 10 days, 11 days?
Yeah, and I think I went out for a week before you did.
And 15 degrees every day, and we didn't see elk. We bumped elk, and it was horrible. It was the worst hunting I've ever done in my entire life. I hated it. I mean, I hate it.
So was that an archery hunt or was that rifle?
Oh man, it was a rifle hunt. It was even easier.
Yeah, no. So when you came into camp, you guys definitely, I mean, you said it from day one, you guys were the underdogs, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, we talk about this because I was talking to Brent earlier. I had to call him after I saw the show, Troy. After I saw the episode, I called both these dudes, and I was just like this proud papa, man. I was like, dude, I was so proud of you, man. And because this guy, when we first got together, could not squeak a noise out of a diaphragm. I mean, it was a noise. I guess you could call it that.
That's amazing, because Brent, you sounded really good.
Thanks.
You sounded really good. And, I guess that gave us a little confidence when we knew that we had partnered with the ElkBros, that all of our guys get to go through your course. It gives us a lot of confidence to pick kind of, maybe some guys that have never elk hunted to that level before, because I know, Joe, your team's going to get them ready. And these guys came in and maybe felt a little like they were underdogs, but simple is always better. And these guys were on every call. They took advantage of your program, took advantage of your guys' knowledge. And that just really shows from one year to the other, like what your program does and how it helps us to have our guys prepared to go be successful. That's a huge thing for our show, to be able to step in camp and actually have a game plan of, okay, this is the process of being successful. Yeah.
That's one. We have actually the deadline coming up. I believe it's this coming week. For being able to apply for Hunt Warz. That's June 10th, correct?
Yep.
And I know that there's a lot of people out there sometimes that they probably look at something like this and go, well, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to put the money for that or put myself in a situation where, they start thinking about failure and different things. And I want people to understand that they're looking at 2 fellas here right now that when they drew this and we started this, because what happens is that we go through a coaching process months prior to them ever getting boots on the ground, you
Right.
know, and they receive all kinds of equipment that's coming their way. They got a new bow that comes their way for the shooter. The caller has a responsibility, and we meet and we go through these training sessions. They get our base camp, training camp, and these guys were just like glued to that. And it was so exciting to see their enthusiasm, and not just them, man, the entire group of guys were awesome with that. You know, it was so cool on my part to see that enthusiasm for especially from people that have been hunting elk, some of them for a long time. We had all degrees of levels of elk hunters, right?
Yeah.
You know, which was really, really cool. But that's what I want people to understand is here's two fellas that they came into elk camp absolutely feeling like the underdogs. Wait till you see some of these episodes when they talk about that. And you know what was cool, Brent, was both you and Jonathan, your calling was absolutely great. But what people don't understand is calling is not just about being able to do a noise. It's like knowing why and how and when, right? And that's where a lot of people fail. And you guys, watching the episodes I did, because you know I get to see these for the first time. This is footage I have never seen, so it's like brand new for me. And I'm listening some of the comments that you're making during the show, and I'm listening to some of your reasoning that you're doing, and I'm like, yeah, nailing it. Except for Troy, what was it? Tell the story about your son.
Yeah. Well, it was just that one part when Jonathan steps into the camera and you see him move, and that bull is like within, I don't even know, 50 yards, 35 yards, whatever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden my son's like, Dad, no, like he just was like yelling at the TV, like, don't move, you know? So it was really fun to have him kind of notice some of the things that I've been working with him on. And so, yeah, that was one thing that he's 14, been on an elk hunt, been on a couple elk hunts now, and never shot anything. But man, I've never seen somebody rooting and yelling at the TV more than that little dude. Like that, and that's what really, you know, the show is really based on, because a lot of guys, and I want to actually give you guys kind of a time to answer a few questions that we get. Like one question is, I'm worried what I'm going to look like on camera, or I'm worried like my hunt's going to be filmed and these guys are going to pick up all the bad things that I do and show them to the world. And, you know, the funny part about that is we all make mistakes hunting, whether or not you want to admit it, we do.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious, I mean, so Brent, you biffed it on the e-bike because you put the throttle on while you turned it on, right on the show. Did it really hurt your ego all that bad to see it? Or were you actually like, I'm glad they caught that, because I tell my wife that. If I told my wife like I biffed it on the e-bike, she'd look at me with this blank stare like, you know, whatever. But now seeing it, I laughed so hard. I rewinded it twice to watch it because I was laughing so hard.
And half of my staff have come up to me and been like, man, you're so good at riding bikes, dude. You know,
it's probably a part of the hunt that you like really never like kind of forgot about or whatever. And then you're like, man, I'm glad they captured that. I'm glad we actually got to relive that.
My wife is like 3-4 months pregnant, and I swear she almost peed herself when she watched that bike. Like, I mean, man, that stuff doesn't matter. It makes the show. And, you know, John, aside from my wife and kids, there's no one I'm closer to on this planet, you know, and Zach is our cameraman. He is one of the coolest dudes I've ever met. And when you're with your best friends doing what you absolutely love, what does it matter if you screw up, man? That's what friends are for, is to make fun of each other. You know, and that's part of the brotherhood of hunting, is doing stupid things and, you know, getting made fun of for it and getting to show the world that it was the coolest thing. I'd ride the e-bike again. In fact, I did. I have a kickstand in my truck still that I took home from my broke off one. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Jonathan, the second question I get a lot of is, you know, the video and the memories. Like for you, tell me like a little bit about the memory that you made shooting that bull, being there, having it, you know, now that you can go back and watch it. Like, I think that that's a super important part of why we do Hunt Wars is we give guys an opportunity to go on a dream hunt that maybe they wouldn't have, been able to do. And I know you guys hunt a lot out west, but kind of just tell me, because that's another question we get a lot of is like, do I really want to be on camera? Do I like it? Like, what did that mean to you to actually have that captured on Hunt Wars?
And I'll tell you, I've said it out loud many times since that I got to figure out how to film, future hunts, because it just brings that different perspective. You can tell a story like in a book, but if you could show somebody a movie, it's so different, and it just brings back so many memories. The footage that's actually on the show is obviously just a small little bit of Brent and I's experience on the show and everyone's, and it just brings back so many different memories and helps you recall different things that happened, from, wrecking an e-bike to, making sure the tent was sprayed with bug spray to, what encounters you had with different elk and just the different struggles and the ups and downs that happen. So, I love it. I love it. I've watched it a lot already.
Well, at the very beginning, well, actually, it's not the very beginning, but just a few minutes earlier in that episode, here's two guys that went in as underdogs, and you have a bull in front of you, you cow call, stop it, and you got a good look at this animal, and you shoot low, man. And what's so cool is you can see it all right there. I mean, the look and everything. Tell us about that moment.
Man, I'm pretty sure they have another good 20 minutes of of video showing that look. I beat myself up hard on that. That was tough. I've never, I hadn't archery elk hunted, before. And so I haven't had some of those ups and downs that, maybe some other people have already experienced. And and I said on the show, that I, just missed the biggest bull of my life, that I've ever seen. And, fortunately I was able to turn the tables and, Brent was able to call in a different one. But yeah, having that and just even every encounter, like we were really close, like every day, like we were really close every day. And we learned so much from every little encounter, after blowing every one of them up, even if Brent didn't see the elk, I talked to him what I saw, and he, gave pointers on what he heard and kind of what the experience and what we did right, what we did wrong. And we were able to make little tweaks, all the way there. And so even looking back on the elk that I shot low on, jumping the gun on that, I think was, in my mind at least, was partially because of all the other elk that had circled out and around us. And when that elk started to go out and around again, I was like, oh man, we're not even gonna, he's gonna just screw around us again. And and obviously rush that and, but learn different things and being able to talk to Brent and, and we had many good talks even with our camera guy. And as far as, just trust the process, the elk was coming in, let them come. And when you watch that next, that next encounter, camera guy and I were kind of in the open. So we were trying to cover some ground to get to where this elk was. And that elk was covering some serious ground to get to where Brent was. And so he came out of the trees and we were in the open in between two big, bushes. And so we were just kind of standing in the open. And so when he's stopping and staring, he's looking right through us over to try to find where Brent is, probably 80 to 100 yards back. And man, that felt like forever. And sure enough, he took a few more steps after that. And so it's just trusting that process and learning from every encounter that you have and building on it. And, and I think that's where the experience of, hunting, is so valuable, let alone to be able to go back and rewatch it, and remind yourself what happened and, hey, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And be able to talk about some of those things too. So, we're really excited for elk camp this year. We obviously are hunting together, and we got another couple people going with us too. And we've shared, the base camp course with them, and trying to get everyone on the same page as much as we can to get, a few rookies and a few, 1-year veterans together to see if we can do it again. So
That sounds amazing.
1-year veterans, man, that have probably the knowledge set and skill set of most guys that have been doing 15 years, So, I mean, I've hunted with guys that have had 15 years of hunting experience, but as far as that knowledge level, sometimes it's not there. Just because you hunt and you're out in the woods and you're chasing doesn't mean you necessarily always have all of that, that knowledge set. So that was, and I'm going to go back to, because what you guys talked about there were some really cool things, because, you got busted the one time being aggressive, right? And that's one thing that I preach to you the whole time is you'd rather blow it up being aggressive than not have an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So part of that is, that's on Joe Gillia's school of aggressiveness. We get that. But at the same time, people don't know that you had those multiple opportunities that were going on. And yet, even though you were being aggressive and that bull caught you in the open, you still had the opportunity. Yeah. You had misjudged the distance. You hadn't range, and it's like Gilbert always says, sometimes you can have all this knowledge and something, that situation happens and it all just goes out the crack of your rear end,
Yeah.
What's going on. But what was neat too is Brent, there was a point where he asked you about, did you see the bull? And this is day 5, and I loved your response. You're like, but I haven't seen an elk the whole trip. I mean,
yeah.
And why is that, Brent? Why hadn't you seen an elk the whole trip?
On my job, man. I'm not there to see elk. I'm there to call elk. And if I can see the elk, that means they can see my shooter, and that means I'm not far enough away. It just affect on those last couple days for me. It's like you're there just to guide these elk in. And my job is to be behind Jonathan doing half circles. Bull starts coming this way, I start pulling him this way. I'm moving this direction, so that bull is coming towards John. I'm not there to see the elk. And my success as a caller on that show was predicated on him shooting a bull and getting that bull to come to him. And I didn't need to see elk to do that. My success came from setting my best friend up to kill a nice bull. And that's where I felt joy and success. Was, man, John shot an awesome bull, and I didn't get to see it happen, but I made it happen.
Yeah. That's actually pretty important in elk hunting, because there's that terrain was really wide open.
Yeah.
And so you could put your shooter in a terrible situation. And actually in the show, on that the second bull that you actually kill, you rip a bugle, and that bull's looking already in your directions when you bugle. But because you were so far back there, if you would have been in any type of sight, I mean, Joe, as well as I do,
you would have hung up for sure.
And they will hang up, and they'll be like, "That something's not right here." And if he would have just flipped around and walked away, you would have never got a shot at that bull. But because you were so far back there, it actually, even though he was looking in your direction, he couldn't see where you were. He actually kept coming in. And that was one thing that I noticed on that, because I'm like, I always cringe when I hear somebody bugle when the bull's looking right at that place. But if you're far enough into the trees, it just kind of fires them up even more. So that was one thing. And I am sure that was a huge reason why you guys were successful in that unit, with it being so wide open, is you were willing to stay back and not see that bull, even though most callers are like, I want to get into the action. I got to creep up. I got to see him. And they end up actually costing their shooter probably a shot sometimes because of that.
Yeah. He had actually, I believe you said, Brent, that you could see Jonathan a little bit. Right.
Yeah.
Because you knew he had taken the shot. So, but you were far enough back and you knew where he was. And like Troy said, that's so huge, especially the more open the terrain is, the more you have to be off, just for the exact reason he's talking about. Otherwise, that bull, if he can see, and he should see another elk, that's red flag all day for that animal. And what you did was not only true to your role, but it was incredibly unselfish, man. I mean, it was, you doing your job to make sure that he got the shot. And I just love that. He's like, did you see him? You're like, no. And I remember the other episode, he's like, did you see him? No, I didn't see him. And then the other one, did you see him? No. And you're like, dude, I haven't seen an elk the whole trip. So, that was awesome. That was But I've got to give it. I've got to give it to you too, man, because you're saying that you're standing in the open, Jonathan, right? And this bull is staring through you guys, and Brent lays out a bugle, and listen, you people listening to the show, you don't understand, because I'm telling you, in June when I first met Brent, at the end of June, he could not use a diaphragm a lick, man. I mean, he was sending me videos all the time, and we were coaching through, and same thing Jonathan was working on, because Jonathan was like, okay, I've got this partner that cannot even make a noise. So I had better be learning too, just in case, right? And as a team, you guys did a great job. And, that's why I want people to understand that how far you came, Brent, was unbelievable. So you lay out this bugle, that bull, man, he can't see. He knows that there's a bull back there. He starts to go, and here's the thing, Jonathan. You have a bull that basically has you almost in sight the entire time he's coming around, and yet you do something that most people wouldn't have. You drew.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that wouldn't have drawn in that situation. They would have locked up, frozen, being worried about being sawn. But again, you make an aggressive move. You draw your bow. The bull gets, and he didn't quite stop, man. Yeah. And your shot placement. Oh my gosh. He was moving a little bit, so it ended up just a little bit back. But because you went mid-body, 3 inches back, you ended up with that perfect
2 holes.
Area. 2 holes. Went through that bull so fast, and I bet it's not 15, 20 seconds when he goes heel up within sight.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Unbelievable and so exciting, man. So I had a question for you, because Troy had asked you how has because a lot of people, when they come on a show, they think it's just all about the show, but this affected y'all's life, man. It affected your hunting. Well, I know Brent lost. How many pounds did you lose, Brent?
Almost 20. It was a lot. I cut down like crazy. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't fit the pants that I was wearing on the show right now, but like pre-show, 20 pounds. It was a life changer for me. Both physically, mentally, emotionally. Like, we all struggle in life sometimes, and you gave us 2 months to be ready to do something that we'd never done before. And on the day that we killed that bull, you ever play a sport, or like you're at work and you're in it, you know what I mean? You just know what to do, and it's clicking, and it's just amazing. You don't even have to think, and it just is responsive. The day that I killed that bull, as soon as he talked to me, I knew exactly what to say back. I knew what to do. I needed, oh crap, he's coming, I gotta run. And I literally ran back, and he's over here. Oh crap, I gotta get this way. And I'm running that direction. And all I did was keep an eye on the freaking cameraman and Jonathan's butt that entire time. It stayed so far back. That's all I could see was their derrieres. And it just clicked. And that's,
so you were using them as the center point of what's happening, right? So you're doing what we call the record player, right? Where you can see your person and you can hear that bull moving off to one side. So you would actually go away to the opposite side to try to be able to pull that bull straight to him, correct?
And it just, I knew what to do, and I knew what my job was that day. And you guys made that happen for us in 2 months. And that's not something that just ended on the show. Like, I'm so freaking stoked to do that this fall. And
Mhm.
we
Didn't you
had
guys go hunting too after the show? I mean, how did it change your elk hunting life after?
They've shot 42 elk now since the show. They have now
No.
arrowed bulls in 10 states, Joe. They are like incredible.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it changed what tags we put in for this year. We kind of focused everything on elk and only elk, and everything's around elk now. Which before it was like, oh, what deer tag are we going to put in for, and and that kind of thing. And opening day for rifle, it's memorized in our head, and calendars blocked no matter what day it was. Well, now that's elk. And if we make it deer, that's
Idaho
different.
hunters that we now have 2 other archery guys in the field. Sorry about that. Like created some diehard elk hunters.
Yeah,
From
we're
rifle
changing the
hunters.
percentages. So
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, Idaho.
Well, didn't you guys go? Actually, you guys went hunting back at home after the show, didn't you?
it was
right before the show, we were
right
going to try to get back, and I think we had one day left that we could have done it, and get back, and we ended up cruising home so we could, Brent had another, 7.5, 8 hour drive after dropping me off, which was a ways from New Mexico too. So we ended up, getting home instead of the one day that we had left.
the hunting we did before the show, it was conjunctive. Is that the right word? I don't know. It was right before the show. Like we left our spot, which I'm not going to tell you about, in Idaho, go to the house to go straight to, and we hunted for what, John, a week, 10 days right before that.
Not even. Yeah.
I mean, my favorite call now is calling for cows, because I like to pretend to be a calf and just, I actually have a die. I brought one, I dropped it.
This is the difference, man, because he didn't want to show off before.
He couldn't find it before.
Yeah, it's too high for it to be picked up.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's too high for Zoom.
Yeah,
Dude.
that's the problem with Zoom. If it goes too high, it'll block it out sometimes. Yeah.
Well, the idea being is I had cows come running at us. I mean, running at 20 yards. They didn't want to stop because we sound like a bunch of idiot calves running through the woods, and it was just amazing. I mean, we called in bulls every single day. We almost sealed the deal on a bull every single day. It was just, it turned something that was exceptionally frustrating last year, the year before that, into something that was a joy to do every single day. It was exciting to do every single day. And
yeah, I think that was the key to y'all's success, though, because when you, and that's what this is about. And that's what, we talk about this being a hunting competition, but it's always a competition.
Yeah, I was going to say hunting is a competition.
Absolutely.
It's you versus everything out there on top of other hunters, the animals, the weather. That's ultimately why I created this show. Was I wanted to see if people put in the same situation could actually be successful. And the show is a success because we watch guys like you be successful from showing up on day 1 to being successful on day 5. That's what truly is the success story of the show. The competition is secondary. I truly wanted to capture, but I can't capture that if I don't put you in a competition. I can't capture it. I can't incentivize you to go hunt a little bit harder, to get out a little bit earlier if we didn't have the competition. But truly, that is what Hunt Warz is all about. Is I wanted to see, let's stick 4 teams in the same area, same week, same weapon, and see how these guys react to all the things that all of us hunters all across the United States go through every year. And that is truly why the show has been such a success. Minus the fact that you guys are the first ever to shoot an elk on Hunt Warz, which is awesome, and will always live in infamy.
Always be.
Yeah, that'll always be. So that was really cool, to see that, and truly, anybody who's listening to this, I can't begin to tell you, you know, when we started this thing, we had 40 teams apply. We lost our shorts in season 1. Season 2, we had a lot more teams that applied, but not as many as you would think. We're not 70,000 applications like Arizona's draw or some of these other draws. You know, the unit that we bought the tags in, which will remain nameless, that unit is 0.01% to draw that unit. And you guys had a lot better shot putting in for Hunt Warz and having everything covered for you on top of, you know, being able to be on the show. I presume you guys all still have your gear. One of the other guys that was on the show said his buddy called and was asking some questions about it and was like, you know, the thing that really got me is I didn't know they got to bring the gear home. Like, we went out shed hunting and this guy pulls out his new spotter, pulls out his new binos, pulls out his new bino harness, like all this stuff. Oh yeah, I got some sheep meat for my boots, you know, and like, you know, all this cool stuff that guys get to go home with and you know, have for hopefully a lifetime. And that's kind of another part of the show that's really cool for anybody who's listening is when the boxes start showing up. And how you guys, you know, I love the team's reactions because they're always like, you know, I didn't think it was real until all of a sudden I get this huge box from Leopold. It shows up and I can't, you know, and so I'm curious, like, was it kind of that way for you guys too?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think the first box that came was Loophole. And that was crazy.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, seriously. Christmas, I think it was in July, the beginning of July, I think is when we got it. And Christmas in July.
Oh,
and,
the ammo that you guys had, the prime bow you had.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they got all sorts of cool stuff.
Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding.
I had a guy from Lewiston, my hometown, hit me up, and he was like, "Hey, is it true? Like, I'm watching this stuff for Hunt Warz." Like, I sent this to our group chat for Hunt Warz, and he's like, "Is this real? Did this happen? I saw you're from Lewiston, Idaho," and I started sending him pictures from my phone of all the stuff that we received, and the Loophole box covers my kitchen table. You know, it's spotting. I mean, sweaters and sunglasses and the broadheads we got and all this stuff. I'm like, man, like, I don't I don't have to buy honey the rest of how long? I don't freaking know. But like, my wife knows now. That's the worst part, is that she knows that I've got all this crap and I can't justify buying anything else because Hunt Warz gave me everything I needed.
Yeah,
you
you're
know?
done for life, man. So that's the thing that I want to make sure people understand. You talked about it a little bit, Troy, when you talked about people that are trying to apply for New Mexico or trying to apply for Arizona, and people that are buying points and putting in application fees. And that's where, people are like, well, but $100 to enter this, And I'm like, really, man, have you really taken a look at what you're spending for these application fees? Because when you do this in most states, you have to get their game license. You're probably buying a tag. Buying a point, and you're applying in there. So, and doing this in multiple states, I know people that spend a lot of money trying to get a tag. And like you said before, the odds of drawing a Hunt Warz tag. Well, let me just ask you, because I heard every one of you guys, Jonathan and Brent, when we did our first interviews, everybody on that show was like, I never win anything. I mean, what about you guys putting in your $100? Did you think you were throwing it to the wind or what?
Well, I figured, so what got me was, we actually only applied 3 days before it closed for season 2. And so, somebody has some time, a couple days to get it done and still get drawn. And so I had just heard about it, and I'm like, to put in for hunts anywhere else is, like you said, over $100 in most places. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try it, let's do it every year. And, if we get it, then heck, at least it's paid for, and we'll kind of go from there. And, because if I get drawn in, a normal New Mexico tag, I'm paying, upwards of $1,000 for the tag itself if I'm drawn. And then we still have to get there. Then we have to, pay for our camp and food and, and every, equipment, and everything. And so, for me, it was like, it sounds too good to be true. Let's throw it in. And sure enough, it panned out, better than honestly ever could have imagined.
A tank of gas. A tank of gas is what.
Tank of gas to get there. I was going
to
say, which is, and I'm one of those guys that applies for a lot of states. And that was really what was another driving force for me on Hunt Warz, because we have 14 hunts this year. Depending on how many guys, apply, we might bump that to 16, and we'll just keep growing it to give guys more chances to be on the show, to hunt different areas, to hunt, different hunts. And I don't know. So some of the draws and some of the things that go on in the different states and how they divvy up their tags, and some have points. And now Utah's talking about getting rid of all the points. So you put in for 20 years and it's gone overnight. And now you're just back to square one. Like, those are the types of things that I'm like, when guys say it's $100 to apply, I'm like, it's not even close in the actual, value proposition, because on top of all the hunts, we just, in our last meeting, and I'll share this with you guys and with everybody listening, we just went through, I think we've got like 13 items that we're going to draw just gear giveaways. So now you got 14, teams that'll come out of the hat. You've got another 13 things that you're in for. And the biggest thing for me is continuing to give you a chance. There's no greater day than the day that the draws come out, and there's no worse day than the day the draws come out.
Right, like, exactly.
There's two sides, right? You're like, the anticipation is what you're so excited about. And then when you have that lull and you're like, all right, now it's a whole nother year away. Like, for us at Hunt Warz, we want to continue to give you that chance that you can follow along with the people that are on the show that year. If you didn't get drawn, you can get drawn for a sleeping bag, a pair of binos, something that gives you a little bit of an upper that maybe you just didn't have your luck drawn that year. And so that's kind of what we wanted to bring to the table, way more than, the draw odds of Arizona, which we all know is ridiculous. And or Utah or New Mexico or wherever it is. Like there's just a lot more hunters in the field this time nowadays. Like they say that the total number of hunters is declining, but there's still more people. And so there's more hunters from my understanding. And that's kind of what Utah has explained to us is, yeah, there's still more hunters in the field. So you're going to have less odds. My little boy, he'll probably never get to hunt a really, really good tag in Utah in his lifetime because of how many points it takes, to get one of those tags. And so that's where I'm like, you know what, we gotta figure out a way that we can actually give people a fighting chance, something. And so we will continue to raise the amount of hunts. If we get 10,000 applications, I promise you, we will be doing 50 hunts. Like we will be drawing as many teams as we possibly can for those hunts and being able to grow it into something absolutely spectacular. Like that is our goal. And that's how we can continue to grow this thing and provide great hunts for people, all over the planet. So, and when I say all over the planet, we are starting to get some people from Australia, New Zealand, Canada.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine sharing camp with a New Zealand hunting group and like talking to them about what it's like to hunt stags or this or that, and then also capturing their different hunting style comparative to our hunting style on an elk or a mule deer or something. So that's kind of where I feel like our show is going, and it could be an amazing experience where you're actually competing for our country, not just for your state.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. So Troy, talk about that a little bit, because from last year, from when these guys went in, it was just like a straight, basically pay your $100 and you're in the hat, right? And you touched on it a little bit, but I want to make sure that that's understood, where this year actually your $100 is purchasing a membership.
Yeah. So we wanted to, because a lot of our sponsors are incredible, giving us gear, giving us giveaways to promote their companies, and then on top of that, giving us discounts. And so we decided to transition where you apply, and then that application also rolls into an annual membership. And so what that is we'll be able to email you and say, hey, here's a 25% discount on this company that's a sponsor of ours. Or, hey, we've got a bino drawing coming up from Leopold. Because you've entered, you get extra entries into this giveaway. And so we've built it into that so that we can actually provide more value than just the hunting side of it. Joe, me and you have talked a lot about having your ElkBros course as part of that, and we'll give a course away or whatnot. So that is the type of stuff that I feel like brings way more value year round than just the one and done application fee that you put in for New Mexico and then get another unsuccessful and, want to have to keep the knives away from your wrists for a week or so.
Well, yeah, because in New Mexico, we do not have a point system.
No points.
If you're applying to come in here, you're basically having to buy that small game license. You're going to a part of your application fee is going to be non-refundable. So basically, you're paying that $100, and it's just, if you don't draw, it's there, and the odds are extremely difficult, man. You're talking 6% of the tags, right? And how many people put in? I mean, that's a lot of slices into the pie. So this is really an incredible opportunity here that these guys had. Now, so that people that have never heard of Hunt Warz before, Troy, why don't you talk a little bit about what the full Hunt Warz package is if somebody draws that hunt?
Right. So how it works is because when you put in for an application, you're usually putting in for a specific unit, you're putting in for a specific animal. And that to me was it's good. That's great. We don't do it that way at Hunt Warz. Hunt Warz has 14 hunts that we'll be doing this year. 4 of those teams will be elk hunts. 4 of those teams will be rifle mule deer hunts. 4 of those people will go on a whitetail hunt in Illinois. And 2 of those teams will head south of the border to Mexico on an awesome trophy coos deer hunt. So how it works is you put your $100 in. We are, around June, I think 15th or 16th, we'll have our selection show, which is so fun. We're drawing the names live. Guys are freaking out. Wives are going nuts. Like, it's a really fun atmosphere. We try to make it really exciting where we're drawing names, we're showing the camera, and your name comes out of the hat. Everybody's got a ticket in there that's applied. We roll it around, we draw a name, we roll it around, we draw a name. And so then those 14 names then go into a interview process where we talk about your experience, about, you know, what animals you've hunted prior to that. We talk about our draw blood rule. We talk about our expectations in camp, and just kind of make sure that you don't need to be the most amazing personalities. You don't need to be the most amazing characters. It's not a reality TV dramatized show. There's been guys on our show that are, you know, hard pressed to say 5 words, and that's okay. Like, we're fine with that. And so we want to make sure that our brand is represented okay. And once you pass that interview, then we as a team select the teams for what matchups go in what. When we line up all the teams that have been drawn, we say, okay, these 4 we feel like are the best for the archery hunt. These 4 are the best for the rifle. And we actually just match those up. We call the teams back and tell them, hey, this is the hunt that you've been selected for. Every time they've been so jazzed just to be a part of it that they are like, just put me in wherever, coach, you know, like I'm good to go wherever. Yep. So that's been really cool. And at the end of the day, just like Jonathan said, we pay for your tag, we pay for your food, we pay for everything pretty much except for you to get to the place that we will be hunting.
Right.
And we've got awesome accommodations, a chef in camp. That's probably been our
biggest problem.
Yes, is we had such good food that guys wouldn't spike out, even though they wanted to, because they wanted to come back to dinner. So
like that, I gained as much weight back from our chef in camp as I it was
that was a really fun part of camp. And so yeah, so that's what you're putting in for, is you get 14 chances. So you're not just putting one name into the hat into, you know, New Mexico unit 54 and crossing your fingers that you're one of those 3 tags. This is going to give you 14 chances to basically be a part of the show.
Cool.
Yeah. And boy, once you are, and you talked about how they get, but the package deal to that, man, these guys had, like you said, they had all kinds of stuff hit them before they even got boots on the ground. So right. If I end up, you put me in, coach, what's going to happen for me as a competitor? And we'll talk elk here because that's what we're doing.
Yeah, perfect. So we immediately kick over. We get all your sizes, who your hunting partner is. We lock all that in. We basically tell you, do not hurt yourself in the next 3 months. Whatever you do, just make sure you're bubble wrapped. And then we actually immediately put you right into the ElkBros coaching clinic and basically go through your entire coaching process, from calling to strategic, you know, wind and direction and where elk are. I mean, your guys' thing is absolutely our best coaching that we offer as far as elk hunting for sure, but, you know, across the board. And so they go through that from basically July 1st all the way until they show up to camp. And then we even had coaches in camp. And you saw in episode 5, Cole and Eric are freaking amazing.
Aren't they?
Every night.
Yeah, that was
they're out
perfect.
there talking to the teams. How can we help you? What happened here? You know, and me and you, Joe, we thought through this, and that's exactly what we wanted, because how many times do you go on a hunt, you come back from the hunt, and things kind of slip through the cracks where you're like, man, I blew that bull out. And you never really talk about it again. You might talk about it with your buddies, like, yeah, stupid us that we blew that bull out. But you never really dissect it and get better from it. You just kind of go back out and hunt again, you know, and do the same thing and create the same mistakes. And you know, over time, I think that a lot of guys actually just do the minimum to be successful. And if they're not successful, they don't know where to turn to be successful. Yeah. And so having those guys go through that course made me so much more confident, comfortable. And I'll be honest, the guys hunted hard in season 1, and those Montana guys, they were very experienced. So were the Colorado guys. And those guys, you know, like those Montana guys arrowed that really nice bull in 16C. But, you know, showing the teams this year and the bugling, I would have put any 4 of those teams up against that Montana and that Colorado team calling. Like, I was blown away. And like you said, Brent and John, and not even called a diaphragm call before they showed, you know, before they went through the ElkBros camp. So that shows me right there, like, I was impressed. I was really blown away, and that's a big deal. So it brings a lot of confidence. And as you go through the course, you get, you know, your Leopold stuff shows up. We try to get you your stuff as quickly as possible if you're going to be on the show, so you can shoot your bow with your bino harness, so you can actually try out your binos. You can make sure your rangefinder works. All of that stuff we get to you as quick as possible so that you can actually be really honed in by the time you show up to camp. And if we don't sponsor the gear, it's mainly because we want you to be comfortable in your hunt, and we want to keep it individual. And what I mean by that is King's Camo is our title, or our presented by sponsor. And we're very specific that we give the hunters an awesome discount, but they're not required to wear King's Camo. And the reason is we love to keep it individual. We want you to be successful and have the main gear that you have to help you be successful in the hunt and that you're comfortable in. And so we don't force anything on anybody.
But I got to tell you, dude, I saw these guys in that King's Camo, and for somebody who, you know, we make camo as well, I loved the pattern, and it was fantastic. Yeah. It was really sweet.
That pattern was sick. And actually the feel of it, the comfort, that was what sold me. Like when we went in and talked to Kings, and I said, well, let me see what it feels like, and putting that stuff on and how nice and comfortable it fit. And man, it was awesome. So we provide discounts on boots and on, you know, other stuff for the hunters, for Hunt Warz, so that they can best equip themselves to come out and give it their all, whether it's on the elk hunt, mule deer hunt, whatever. But that's kind of what you need to expect. There's not a ton that goes on, and I tell all the people that get drawn, you might not hear from me every week. We're going to do a little better job. The one thing I loved about last year, Joe, is these teams came into camp already knowing each other.
Yep.
They'd already been on calls with each other. They'd already been harassing each other a little bit on trash talk and, hey, you know, who's going to kill first, who's going to tag out. And it created such an amazing atmosphere in camp to have those guys show up knowing each other. And so we'll probably do a lot more of that type of call with the groups to get to know each other before they show up to camp. So
we were on a WhatsApp chat group that was used extensively before the guys ever got there.
Daily.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
And it still is used daily.
Yes.
You know, like, holy cow, I get blown up by that thing. And that's awesome. You know, like friends for life, you know, they leave with such cool memories and friends. And, you know, I remember last fall after you guys got done hunting, hey, did you guys kill? How did that hunt go? You know, what about this hunt? Like, you know, Eric killed a cow and he put it on there. And there's just some really cool stuff that I think goes off the show that really is part of the experience as well.
Yeah, and that's like the guys, you know, our guys that do the editing and do the photography. There is so much that is not even shown in the show because there's just no time for it. It would just go forever. And, you know, they try to show, and I think they do an incredible job with the photography and telling the story and showing the grind. And it's so cool. And I think that was a cool part about having all 4 teams. And there was, you're able to go to this team, to that team, to this team, all in almost like real time that was happening through the day and their experiences on the different levels. And for the first time, you guys got to see, you know, how close the other teams were getting each day, right?
Had no idea, because everybody was pretty quiet. You know, you'd ask them, hey, how'd it go today? And they're like, oh, you know, we did okay. You know, we're getting close. And, oh, it's a tough day, you know. And then you watch the show and you're like, what? You were like so close.
Like so close.
You know?
I loved it. I loved it when Eric sent Britt that text and said everybody had killed that morning except for their team. And they're like, what? Like, is that really true? Like, how's that? I mean, it messed with them a little bit. And I love that we showed that because, you know, we like to have a good time out there with the guys. And
awesome.
I think the cameramen are absolutely, you know, amazing.
Mhm.
They do a really good job of just capturing your hunt. And that's what we always talk about is, hey, we're just here to make sure that we capture you guys hunting. It's not this
Right.
stop and you have to always, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, let's just capture it and you know, go through that a little bit different than maybe some of the other hunting shows where they stop every 3 minutes and tell you exactly what's going on.
And that's the thing that attracted me to doing this with you guys is the ethics, the responsibility, and the point of it. And seeing these guys, how they were out there together, seeing the different teams, not only just them as teams, but how they got to relate to each other was an incredible, and that's what elk hunting is about. That's what our elk camps are about. That's what the traditions become, and it does. It becomes life changing, and I think you guys are perfect examples of that. And that's why I was so excited that you guys were able to take some time out of your day and jump in with us. And I couldn't be prouder. Every coach, their only wish is to be able to see their athletes not just succeed. It's more than the final kill. It's the journey along the way. You know, trophies are things that we put on a shelf that eventually just fall apart because of age and time. But the memories, the things that you learn along the way out of that, not only just within elk hunting itself, but life lessons about continuing on, about, you know, grinding, about, you know, having internal motivation and doing the homework, making the changes, believing in yourself, having confidence. All of those things change your life, and they change how you do things throughout your life. So, I mean, being able to see that and hear that and watch you guys. I'm a little older than y'all now, so to see these young men come along in this way has been an extreme pleasure for this guy right here. So, Troy, before we get out of here, man, it is looming. So tell us.
It's really June 10th. I mean, it's here, and it'll shut off at midnight. Like, we're not opening it back up. Like, it's done for season 3. And so basically you go to Hunt Warz, right on the front page, it says apply. You hit apply now, and it's really simple because we don't ask for a ton of information. You can actually just click Apple Pay and it'll actually input all your information, but it's just your basic name, phone, email. That's all we needed right off the bat, so we can draw a name out of a hat. Then we'll get your partner and we'll get everything, you know, we'll get you all dialed in that way. But to apply, it's really simple. You go there, you hit apply now, add to cart, check out, and that immediately sends you a little receipt that says you're in. Congratulations. You can buy more entries than one. That's another thing that we do that's a little different with the membership is you can actually buy a few more entries if you want to do that. We are really pushing to get, you know, a great array of hunters. Like last year, the first year, it was a lot of Western guys. There was only one team from Alabama. Year 2, it expanded. It went from, you know, Missouri, Indiana, South Carolina. That was really cool. I can honestly tell you, we are getting a lot of a lot more interest from all different parts of the country and, you know, globally. That's going to be awesome. So diversity is really cool and exciting for me to see. But you go right there, you click, you check out, and then you say your prayers every day until you draw this sucker. And if you don't draw, the coolest part about it is you're part of something greater than just a state draw. We're going to send you some cool stuff. You're going to be able to watch the show and know that you're supporting something, you know, that I feel like is really cool for the hunting industry. And that's one thing that we'll work on down the road is we're going to get involved in a lot of conservation and probably donate some of the application to conservation to give back to hunting. we're conservationists just like everybody else. Hunters are conservationists, and I think that's important. And so your $100 is going to go a lot farther. And we just hope that people will come and support us, and so we can do this for 20 seasons and have hundreds of teams going out. That's our goal. So
Absolutely, man. And what an incredible, awesome opportunity. And, for you guys listening out there, I want you to understand, he mentioned Alabama. In that first season, there were guys in camp that they were trying to learn how to call elk in camp. They, guys that had no elk hunting experience. And then you look at season 2, and you're seeing 2 gentlemen here that were the first ever to kill on the show, that their elk hunting experience was pretty ground level. So,
and I have to point out, as big of ego and elk hunting ego I have, I was the caller that trained the guys on season 1 who were not successful. So having the ElkBros actually trained, I showed up to camp, and when I heard those awesome Alabama guys, I freaking love Isaac and Kale, great guys. But man, when I heard them call, I'm like, hey, let me give you a couple tips here. And you'll see in season 1 if you watch it, I'm on the show calling, and I think back at that, and then I think about you guys in the ElkBros in season 2, and I'm like, hey, I don't profess to be the best caller, but man, these guys are good. These ElkBros coaches are freaking legit. So,
but to be fair, man, we had months. You had on-the-job training.
And literally, hey, let me hear you call. Okay, that's not going to work. Let's work on it.
Before we leave, Jonathan and Brent, anything that you guys like to tell the listeners about your experience before we get out?
Yeah, it's been an experience of a lifetime. Changed our hunting perspective in life, and even what we're dreaming. We're dreaming of bugles now, and not just spotting animals and chasing after them. And amazing memories that my young kids are going to be able to watch back when they're old enough to talk to them about it. And it's just exciting. So. For the cost of an application, of an out-of-state application, you have a lot better odds than, that one application. So I'd put in.
I was doing the math while I was sitting here, and it costs $7 for one application in Idaho. So realistically, and that's as an in-state resident. I mean, you get more applications for cheaper than an in-state resident for Hunt Warz. It's really cheaper than applying for in-state. And if you guys get drawn, for those of you who are putting in, go for the fight tooth and nail with that Troy guy over there to get the Hunt Warz experience. Joe Gipa, those guys will change your life. I have the shell casing for my grandfather's 56th elk that he killed, and I'm on. How many elk have I killed? 1. I've killed a cow. So, I saw 2 elk last year, but
that's awesome.
It changed my life and how confident I am in hunting. And it sounds silly, but I've looked up to my granddad my whole life. He's my hero, and he can't really get out and hunt anymore. And I'm so excited to be able to carry that legacy on that he has passed on to me and actually be successful at it. Because legally, I don't think I could ever kill 56 elk, but here's to try.
That's awesome, dude, man.
Awesome.
Hey, and guys, thanks for coming in today to share this with everybody out there. I hope all you guys that are listening out there, guys and gals, if this is something that you even remotely are thinking about, go to huntwarzwithaz.com and apply for the show. I would really love to have the opportunity to work with anybody and everybody, and that's the greatest part of what I get to do with this. So Troy, Jonathan, and Brent, thank you guys. And for everybody else out there, listen, whatever you do, keep dreaming of the screaming, believing and achieving, but most of all, keep grinding. Until I see you next time, man, hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, see ya.